So Namaloha. I don't know if anybody's going to be on here. This is a last minute thing. But write down your name and your where you're logging in from. I'm just going to get the comments up here, and then I'll come back to it. Okay. So let me just share the screen, and we'll have a look at the chart here. Whoops. That's not the chart. There we go. So that's the chart as of June 2nd, just like 5 minutes ago. And you can see here that we moved into the 35 gate. And that's paired with the 5th right there. And I want to talk about the channel that's been activated. So remember, a channel is when you get the one gate matches with the other gate. So you got the 17, and that's in Mars and Jupiter right there, Mars and Jupiter, which is very significant in itself. And then you've got the 62, and that's the moon. Okay, so right here we've got the shadow of opinion. Look out. Right, the shadow of opinion with the shadow of the intellect. So for this channel, especially if you have this channel, it's going to be, you know, you're going to feel it even more so, right? Because it's going to be like a double signature. But we're all going to feel this. So this is the mind, and that's our own personal mind. So that's the ajna. So it's not the third eye, it's our personal mind, like our psychological mind. And then this is the throat chakra, right? So this is all about sharing your opinions with other people, right? So it's all, for the gift here, let's just go, because there's always a gift to these channels, is that we can be able to see the bigger picture. So if you have this channel already, you know this. You've got the mental ability, the mental gift to see the bigger picture without getting bogged down by the details, you know? So you're able to see the forest, right, through the trees. So if you don't, with this one, in order to share your opinions, you have to have the relevant facts, right? So it's about long-term vision too, the 17. I've got it in my SQ, so it's a spiritual gift of mine. And you're able to recognize patterns too. But you've got to, with this channel, I don't have the whole channel, but if you have the channel, you've got to back up those opinions with relevant details. Okay? So this is a projector channel, because they go back to type. If you know your type from my recorded readings, or you got your free chart, right? This is a projector channel, and we know that projectors need to be invited. So you have to wait if you have this channel, and this is how you can work with this transit. It's going to be, it's only for 24 hours, but I thought it was worth mentioning, right? Is you have to be wait to be invited to speak, and you can fascinate people with your knowledge. And if you're not invited to speak and you just go for it, you can bore people with unnecessary detail. Do you know those people that you ask them a question and they're going on, and they're given like a 10-year context of what happened, and too much detail, right? It's like, get to the point. So, but if you're invited to speak, then you'll be right on point. Okay, so people with this channel, if they have a right eye, it's connected to the eyes. Like 17 is the right eye and 11 is the left eye. So if you got a weak right eye, like mine used to be weak, I used to have to wear one of those pirate patches when I was a kid, because I've got the 17, right? And that's from giving your opinions without being invited, right? So my eyes get actually a lot better now that I've learned human design and my own design. And this is very visual, right? Because it's the eye. So that's a good thing to work with, like with your vision board, or that's how I work. Like I see an image first, and then I translate it into a word. So you really get to, with design, you really get to know how your mind works, right? So you're working with yourself. You're not swimming upstream, right? You're working with how you're designed. Okay. So that's that channel. And then we've got this, we still have the channel of insights, the Freak the Genius channel. So we're going to be getting, you should be downloading insights left and right during this time, right? So let's just talk just briefly about the mind. So the mind, this is what we're really kind of in a battle with right now during this time, is removing our authority from the mind, this mental awareness system, into the solar plexus awareness system. So no longer thinking our way through life, but feeling our way through life, right? Preparing for this big solar plexus mutation. And you know what? I listened to an astrologer the other day that I really respect, and he's very popular, and he's started dabbling into human design, and he said this is the new astrology, and I totally agree, because it's so future oriented and it's so focused on each person as an individual. You know, there's a lot of power here. And Ra Uru Hu, he's the one that downloaded this during the harmonic convergence. This whole system just came down through an alien force, an alien entity. He calls it the voice. He really said it's for the future. It's really for the children that are coming. It's not really for us, but you know, some of us are. I feel like I'm kind of was born way too early. You know what I mean? When your consciousness feels like it's way in the future. So this is what this system is for people like you, and then the parents. Right? This would have saved me so much heartache if my parents knew that I was a projector and how I was designed, and my teachers at school knew that, and right? So, yeah, it's just a powerful system, and it's just like a black hole. It just doesn't end when you get into it, and everybody has their own doorway into human design, right? And this is my doorway, right? Through Golden Shadow, exploring Golden Shadow with Kundalini Yoga meditation too. So the mind, we have to remember, because we have it, right? So what's the true purpose of the mind? Is to communicate. Like, I need my mind to be able to communicate to you. I'm translating energy. That's all that's going on. I'm translating energy and making it into concepts and then communicating it to you. And then it's for study and play. Right? Study and play. That's what the mind's for. But it's really for other people. Your mind isn't for yourself. So if you go in there and start listening to your mind that's crazy because you're giving it way too much authority, it's like telling a 3-year-old, okay, you're going to be in charge of my life. You have to make all the decisions for me as an adult. You know, the mind's not equipped for that. But as soon as you start to take charge as a soul, right? As a soul, as an eternal soul, like, I'm in charge, you're my servant, then the mind starts to relax, and it actually becomes like a pet, right? And then it's like the best servant ever. But if you put it as your master, it's the worst, right? So it's about getting in the correct position now. Of the mind has to come into its correct position as a servant. You know, and the mind can serve us. If you've got to do like rat-tat-tat stuff, like figuring out a recipe or something, or math, it's like, okay, mind, come in. But not to make your big decisions in life. No, that's not what it's there for, right? So it's for other people. So somebody can come up to you and ask you a question. Do you have any insight? Right, the 4323. Do you have any insight on this problem that I've had? And then you've got the 1762. You can see the patterns, right? Oh, you're in a pattern. Remember, you talked about this, that you dated the same kind of person 5 years ago and you're going through the same thing, right? That's when you're serving that other person with your mind, but you don't turn it inward. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about the mind. And also, I love this. I just put this meme up yesterday because I love images, right? I got that 17. This is the big thing. I mean, if I ruled the world and I could get people to do one thing, it would be to own their projections, right? So I love this picture, right? So this is what we're doing with the mind. We can project, right? This is the misuse of the mind. Right? The misuse of the mind is we project out what what we think we are, right? So this is Shadow 101. If you even do this, you'll just grow and evolve leaps and bounds. Like, honestly, when I found the concept of the shadow with Carl Jung, like the basic shadow in my 20s, like I had a huge paradigm shift. It was, you know, a paradigm shift is when everything, your world is completely rocked, right? You can't look at yourself, you can't look at the world, you can't look at other people the same way. When you really bring this in deeply about projection. So this shadow is the disowned part of ourselves that we judge, right? We repress, we bury it deep, deep within us. We forget that it's even there, right? And then we throw it onto another. This is happening at the unconscious, subconscious level, and we pretend that it has nothing to do with us. And this is what we're seeing out in the world, this projection. That's all the world is. It's like a mental projection of us as a collective, projecting on one another and not owning our own shadows. Now, this can go back to childhood. All it takes, right? Because our mother, especially our mother, or father, an extended family, right, as a child, all they have to do is give you the side eye. You know, that I don't approve of what you're doing right now, right? So if you were a little girl and you were really you know how children are, really expressive, and you know, and you didn't want to wear a dress because it impeded with your expression, and you were rambunctious and athletic and a bit of a tomboy, right? That all it takes is that mother. Right? Like, that's not okay. Little girls don't do that, right? It really works with the gender, like both boys and girls. Like, no, little girls don't do that, right? Little girls are quiet, right? Little girls don't take up a lot of space, right? And then they get praised for that. Oh, you're such a good little girl. You're so quiet, right? You're so helpful with mommy, helping her, right? And then this fragment gets built up, and I talked about the fragments, this false personality that's not you, right? And then this other part of you gets buried, that part of you that's expressive and open-hearted and right and authentic and spontaneous, that gets buried, and then it gets projected onto someone else who's doing that out in the world, right? They get in all your judgments. Turn it back to yourself, because those are all the judgments you received, right, as a child. So it's like anything that really like brings up emotions for you and makes you uncomfortable, right? That person is your shadow, right? And what you're doing is you're projecting that little, let's say that little, I just put a demon, right, but something that you would demonize, right, or you've been demonized about. You project that on that other person. So that projector screen is another person. And then that's all you see, right? Is that demon, and then you judge them. So here you can have an angel. You could have an angel in front of you. Like literally, you could have an angel in front of you that's there to help you and love you and support you. And all you got, if you haven't owned your shadow, you're just going to see a demon. You're not going to see an angel. You're just going to see a demon, and you're going to judge them. Do you see how it keeps like love from reaching you, divine energy from reaching you? So go into that. There's no us and them, right? There's an inner, and then there's an outer you. There's an inner you and just an outer you. All those people are aspects of you. You can't see clearly yet if you're not owning your shadow. So you got to watch this, right? So the ego is not your amigo, it's not your friend. It encourages you to project your own negativity onto another, thereby clouding your perception of other people. You can't see other people, right? So you may actually have a demon in front of you, right? You're not going to see them. You can't even see them. It works the other way too, right? You'll see them as a friend in like Stockholm syndrome, right? Start loving your abuser, loving that toxic person that does not care about you at all. Do you see? So it works both ways. But you got to bring it all inside, right? And alchemize that. It really usually comes up with strong emotions too, right? So the ego only keeps you fighting with the mirror when you refuse to own your own projections. That's all you're fighting with. And who gets hurt when you're fighting and punching the mirror, right? Who gets hurt? You do. You're the one with the bloody fists. The mirror's fine, right? So the intensity of your judgments and emotional reactions, especially those big kahuna shadows, it's like, I can't even look at them. I can't even hear them. They make me so uncomfortable. I just want to run away from them, right? That's your shadow. And look at the correlation, right, of your emotional reactions and your judgments. It's the power that the ego is trying to keep from you, right? Because there's power there because you're bringing back an aspect of yourself. This is all the spiritual journey is. It's a recovery project. We're recovering aspects of ourselves, right, that we've left behind along the way so that we can come into our full power and not fragmented and our energy diffused, right? Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about this projection. Okay, so let's quickly go into this 35. Which is there until, I think it's a week. Let me just check my ephemeris. It's there until the 8th, so Wednesday. It's going to sit there until Wednesday. And it got activated today, I believe. Yeah, the 2nd. It got activated today. And look at this. Solar plexus, right? It's our emotions going right up to the throat. Right? This is a manifestor channel, right? So this is speaking from our emotions. So, what was I going to say about that? This is, this channel basically is about us having human experiences, right? We're eternal souls. We've come to here on the planet to have human experiences, not to be locked away and play it safe. So this is really emotionally we'll feel this pressure to change, right? To change and to grow and to evolve, and it's going to be coming through the emotional body. You know, we've been into this Piscean energy and the Mercury retrograde and going over things and reflecting things and like lockdowns and staying still, and now it's like it's time to bust a move. Right? I know Saturn is going in retrograde soon, but even Saturn is going to help with anything that's like Saturn is about stability and long term, right? That's like building your house on a solid foundation. That's what this channel is showing us, this 36, 35. And it's coming from Neptune, 36, and then the Sun, right? So that's a powerful combo there, the Sun and Neptune. And this is about, well, let's go into the shadow. And I already talked lots about the shadow of the 36. This is turbulence, right? And the gift is humanity and compassion, right? So that's the shadow is feeling the turbulence. And remember what I just talked about, when the pressure's on, act and the pressure will be gone. And your feelings are going to tell you if you're going on the right path or not, you know? So if you're feeling depressed and hopeless and in despair, you have to make a move. You've got to activate. You got to do something, like anything different than what you're doing. That's all it takes, right? It's just to do something different. I'm going to do something different, because that's the definition of insanity, right? Banging your head against the wall, doing the same things, expecting a different outcome. So you got to look at it. It's like I'm in a rut. I'm getting the same outcome over and over and over again, right? So this is what this is showing, like to do something different, like anything, do something different. And that's going to move the energy, because you want to activate the creativity, right? So if you feel like you're between a rock and a hard place, that's that duality of the mind, well, if I do this, this is going to happen and I'm still stuck. And if I do this over here, I'm still stuck. It's the either or. That's how the mind works. It limits you. Right? So this option or that option, I'm still stuck between a rock and a hard place. Well, what's the other option, right? I talk about option 3, which is go vertical. Don't go horizontal. Time and space, go vertical. And that's to connect with your divinity. Right? Connect to your divinity. And that's the creativity that comes through. Things that the mind cannot. The mind's all about the past. Right? We're coming into a new age, the age of Aquarius. We can't be bringing that in, the past, into this present, into the future. It's not going to work. None of that's going to work. People are trying to do the same old, same old. Well, I'm just going to have a life like my parents had, my grandparents had, and this is logically what you do. You do this, you do that, you go to school, you get a good education, then you get your career and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you got to throw all that out the window. That's all going away, right? We're creating a new life. Your grandparents would be shocked at the life that you're going to have, right, in this lifetime. Your parents are going to be shocked at the life that you're going to have in this lifetime. It's like we'll be unseen, unheard of by your ancestors, right? So you've got to really open to the new and let go of the past. That's the big message right now, is we need to let go of the past. And then we can make room for this new to come in, right? This new energy. And this is the gift of the 35, is adventure. It's adventure. So the shadow is hunger, right? And the hunger is about boredom, right? It's I'm bored. That's the mind. I'm bored of this. I'm bored, right? Boredom's a good thing. I think boredom's a really good thing. We've got so much distractions right now. And even when I was a kid, we didn't have the iPhone and all that stuff yet. And boredom was good because boredom actually activated your imagination. Like my brother and I would play G.I. Joe like for hours and hours and hours. We'd be lost in our own world of imagination and creativity, right? So that boredom is just a sign that, okay, so the new's coming in, right? So you don't want to be filling up your life with useless things that the mind wants. The mind wants to not feel bored. The mind's hungry to be distracted, right? And what's it looking for? I mean, I could go on for days about this 35, but I don't want to keep this video too long, and I want to get into the cards. Serotonin. Serotonin. That's what's driving the shadow, is serotonin. And that's the feel good, right? It's the feel good. To make us feel good. So that's what we're hungry for, is like this emotional fulfillment, right? And that's deeper than the mind. You want to feel emotionally fulfilled in your life now, right? That's what you want to fill your life with, emotional fulfillment. Money doesn't do that. Money's not going to give you that. That's what we've been conditioned to believe, right? Money and status and title and some relationship that looks really good on paper that our parents told us that makes a good husband or a good wife, a good partner. It's like you got to throw all that out the window. Like, what makes you feel emotionally fulfilled? And reflect on your life. When I felt the most emotional fulfillment, what was I doing? Who was I around? Who can I be myself around? I mean, that's for me, right? I've got the 8. I'm all about authenticity. I don't want to be hanging with people that don't accept me for who I am, or judge me, or project all their crap and bullshit on me. I don't want those people around me, right? I want people around me that also want to be authentic. They also want to be deep. There's a thing that gives me emotional fulfillment, is when people are real and authentic and not putting the nicey nice face on and pretending that they're okay, right? We can see through them. The spiritual people can see through them and read them like a grade 2 book, you know? So you have to find that's for me, right? You got to find what emotionally fulfills you. That's what that channel is saying, and it's coming from your emotions. So, what else did I want to say about boredom? Okay. So this is, I know what I wanted to say. So adventure, right? So you gotta embrace, you gotta be the adventurer during this time. You gotta accept everything that's happening in the world. I know it can seem really horrific if you're going down the rabbit hole, and I go down there too because I want to know what's going on, right, with the world and these negative shadow forces, like what they're up to. To just look at that as like everything's perfect. This is part of the Great Awakening. That's the whole game. The end game here is we're all awakening to our true nature now. We're letting go of the ego. We're letting go of these false fragments that aren't us. We're coming into our authenticity now, right? Is to embrace that, like I'm an adventurer, right? Like on Star Trek, right? We're going to where no man or woman has gone before, and it's not out there, it's in here. That's the great adventure. We're exploring consciousness now, right? That's the great unknown, is our consciousness. That's what we're exploring. So it's about being an emotional adventurer. Okay, my emotions and my heart and my intuition are taking me over there, and I'm scared. That's all you have to say to yourself. Like, be honest with yourself. And I'm really scared to go over there, right? And my mind's fighting, and my ego's giving me all kinds of excuses why I shouldn't go over there and why I should stay here, because I know what's going to happen over here. And that's the point. You do know what's going to happen over there. That's the loving the devil, and not the devil you don't, right? That's how the mind works. The Stockholm Syndrome. I'm going to just learn to love my abuser, basically, right? But you have to embrace the adventure. And the adventure is like, okay, I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to follow my intuition. I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's the fool's journey, right, in the tarot. And I'm going to go on this emotional adventure. And you're going to grow, right? This is the solar plexus mutation. You're going to grow and evolve through your emotional body. And you're going to have this fabulous, like wonderful adventure that you have no idea what's going to happen, right? But it's all predestined, right? It's all predestined with your soul contract that you signed, right, before you incarnated. And that's what I did. I was forced. I got pushed out of the nest for sure in 2012, but I've been on a crazy wild adventure. I just gave myself up. It's like, I give up. I'm just so overwhelmed right now, and I can't figure things out, how this is going to work. I have no strategy. Like, nothing's working. I've got no personal willpower. I had to give up and go on this wild adventure, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And I'm so happy that God kicked me out of the nest. So any crisis, because 36 is about crisis that's happening in your life, just know that it's like you're the little baby bird, and mama bird's pushing you out of the nest. It's time for you to fly, right? It's time for you to fly, and you wouldn't get pushed out of the nest if you weren't ready, right? You wouldn't be given these challenges if you weren't ready. So it's just letting go of what you think life, like all your dreams, even when you were a child, of what your life would be like and what you were taught you should be, right? Let all that go and just open up to the adventure, the emotional adventure. Like, your emotions are going to lead you, right? Your heart's going to lead you, and your intuition, of course, too. So it's the shadow of hunger that actually influences the low serotonin levels, right? That's the depression. That's the anxiety. That's the going for the addictions, right? Because you're trying to get that serotonin level up. When you're out of the shadow frequency, it's all about frequency right now, right? When you're out of the shadow frequency and you're into the gift of the adventure and the freedom, right? Then your serotonin levels start to go up. Right? So there's no need to run into the pharmaceuticals. They know all this stuff. I know they know all this stuff, right? And then it's when you feel that oneness, right? And it can be simple. Like, I know everybody's had an experience of that through their life, right? Where they just feel one at one. They don't feel separate. They feel like they belong. They feel safe. They feel secure. They feel really good. And it's going to be around certain people and in certain activities and stuff. And that's your clue. That's your breadcrumbs. Like, follow the breadcrumbs, and your emotions are going to guide you. Okay. I just want to look at the comments. Okay. Jennifer, Satnam, Irvine, OC. I don't know where that is. Is that in the United States? Jennifer from Vancouver Island. And you're in the best little putt, Peanut. Oh, Bougie says hi to Peanut. Hello from Washington. Yeah, C.A. Patterson. I know, well, today's my Uranus day. You know, Jupiter rules Thursdays, but then you have your own personal day, depending on what day you were born. I was born on a Saturday. So Jupiter's my Uranus day, so it's the unexpected. And it's the higher octave of Mercury, so I'm going more with the flow with that, right? So Thursdays and then Saturdays, it's Mercury day. I notice that I do live streams on Saturday too. Not late at all. Jahadi. Madam Kate from SC. Found you last week. Yay, welcome, Madam Kate. And Karen. Karen's a regular. I'm kind of enjoying boredom. Yeah, dive into it, right? It's good for deep meditation. And wood person, so bored. Yeah, hello, C.A. Patterson. I apparently mentioned boredom for the collective inner video today, Pearl May. Oh, Pearl, yeah. I'm definitely noticing I'm using my mind less and less, yeah. I know I'm catching myself with that too. It's like sometimes, I should watch something on Amazon Prime or Netflix or YouTube or something. And part of me, it's like no, I don't want to fill my mind with any more information right now. Because you need time to digest it. It's like eating too much food, or eating, not giving yourself long enough to digest. It's the same thing with information. Sometimes I've been listening more and more to music. I mean, I love music and doing that. I just find that really relaxing. So look at things that fill you up with that 36, with this adventure, the adventure is for you. Wood person. I've heard the phrase little girls should be seen and not heard so many times in childhood. Yeah, so that's a really good point. Now I find it difficult to express myself as an adult. That's that old story of the elephants, right? How they train the little elephants. They put a little chain on the baby elephant and they tie it to a tree. And every time the baby elephant gets to the end, right? It's like the chain pulls its leg back. And they keep that same chain on as that elephant grows up, right? And the elephant could clearly rip that chain off in the tree and everything and just take off. But it doesn't because of the conditioning from when it was a baby elephant. So that's what we come against, right? But when we start to grow and evolve as a soul, right? On our soul's journey, we bump up against our fears, what's held us back from childhood. Right? So that's what you have to push through. You can feel it, like, why am I being quiet right now? And I'm afraid to express myself. And one thing that I'm just thinking of right now is in my own personal experience when I was a child, my mother was not present at all. Like, God bless her, right? She wasn't present at all and didn't listen. She had that 43. She had that 43-23. So the 43 is deafness. So she's just listening to her own mind, her noisy mind, and not she can't listen. That was one thing that she told me before she passed on, is I wish I would have listened to you more. So I learned not to talk. I was silent around her, right? And if I did talk, it would be really quickly, right? Because she wasn't present. I had to get it in really, really quickly. And so that followed me as an adult until I, right, saw the pattern. Oh, that's why I'm doing that, right? So you see how these things follow us from childhood? Yeah. So when you start to meditate and you have that awareness, your awareness starts expanding and you're able to observe yourself. You don't disassociate for yourself, but you're more in the observer. That's who you really are. And then you watch yourself, right? You're watching yourself and you ask why. Why do I do that, right? And then it helps to understand where these patterns come from, and then you can let them go. I really firmly believe for most of us, we need to see the pattern to understand it, right? Because understanding is the city of the forgiveness. And before we can forgive, we have to understand, right? So that's good. Wood person, you're on it, right? Now you know. Articulating, I think I'm confused. The shadow of boredom. Yeah. The thing is, you can't really understand these shadow patterns with your mind. Just, right? Just after this live stream's done, just listen to it again, and you'll it's also the mind that stigmatizes too, right? That there's a fear of being bored. There's a fear there. And it's related to the mind, right? Because you're coming more into the present moment, right? This is what this whole Aquarian age is all about, is we're becoming more and more into the present moment. That's why time is doing weird things. Like I can't even remember what I did last week. Do you know what I mean? Like I've got a bullet journal so I can write significant things down, what I did, so it can kind of tweak me of like, what was I up to last week? Time is doing weirder and weirder things. It's bending because it's bringing us more into the present moment, and that's what's real. And that's what the mind is resisting through this boredom. I'm bored. I need to fill up, right? I need to fill up myself with distraction so I'm not bored, because the boredom leads into the present moment, right? And if you haven't been working on your spiritual journey, it's going to feel like emptiness. My life is meaningless. It has no purpose, right? That's what people fear, is this emptiness, lack of meaning and purpose in their life, right? Thank you, C.A. Patterson. I strive to do a good job with human design and shadow. And this is my doorway in, right? I've been on this shadow thing since my 20s. Diana, I love how frequently you've been doing these. Great. Yes. Okay. Spiritual tribe, that's right. Eckhart Tolle always comes after you, and it's amazing. He's a total vibe change to dull, just the dull, right? That could be that shadow of boredom, though, too. We're all doing our part, right? That's what I look at the Aquarian ages. We're all holding doors for one another. That's the image I have in my mind, right? So people are holding doors for me, and I walk through, and then other people are, and I'm holding doors for other people, and you're going to hold doors for other people, and it goes on and on like this. There's no one master, one teacher, and many students anymore. It's like this is about self-mastery, right? All of us. Okay, spiritual designer, earthing, yeah, enchanting mantra have helped me so much this week. Yes. Yeah. Okay, and then you guys are chatting with each other. Okay, and simplicity. Okay, great. Okay, so let's do some cards to help learn about this helps you to learn about the ego in what's going on. And me too, right? I learn too. One teach, two learn. I love that saying, one teach, two learn. Okay. Okay. So the boredom. Yeah, because the mind's just looking for anything to grab onto and to identify with. But there's nothing to be afraid of, because that's who you are, this complete emptiness, right? And there's a lot of creativity there. This is the divine feminine, right? This dark void. It's filled with creativity. Okay. What do the people need that are listening? What do the people need that are listening? What the ego block is, what the ego block is, what the ego block is. Just want to get this too. Okay. This is interesting. So this is the rebel. Okay, do you see that? And it's a man with his fist up in the air, right at God. Rebel. It's the rebel. And so this is connected to the ego and boredom. And this is total resistance to the divine. So there's the lower frequency rebel. So the 43, do you see the 43 there? Right? That's the self node. That's what we're letting go of. Right? The self node of the moon is what we're letting go of. And that's the 43rd shadow. And that's deafness, which I talked about. And it's connected to the rebel. Right? So it's the rebel. So the lower frequency rebel, that's this guy, the shadow rebel. It's about being deaf to your own voice, to your own inner voice, to your own inner voice, and listening to the voices outside and reacting to the voices outside, right? So fighting against the shadow. So if you can look at it like just what's going on in the world right now, and the oligarchs and the people that look like they're in power, they're just playing their roles, right? Fighting against them and resisting them is just feeding the shadow. It's this, right? These two forces of light and dark, right? Fighting each other. There's no movement there, right? There's no movement because you're feeding the darkness when you're fighting the darkness. So what do you need? You need the third option, right? And that's connecting to the divine. That's connecting to your to the creative energy, right? That's how we're going to move this. And this merges both light and shadow. So we're doing that inside of us, what the mind considers good and what the mind considers bad. Do you see? Am I getting across with this? We need to merge these two into the light, into the greater light. That's the divinity, right? That's the way to work with light and shadow. So the rebel's kind of that, right? Is reacting to the world. And again, it's outer referenced. The rebel is outer referenced. It's listening and reacting to whatever's going on outside. Someone says, do this, and the rebel says, I'm doing the opposite. It's a reaction. It's coming from the mind. It's coming from the shadow. It's not coming from their inner wisdom and their intuition, right? So what you do if somebody is telling you this, like you should do this, you don't dismiss them. I'm not going to listen to them, or I'm not going to listen to their feedback, right? Whatever that is, you just say thank you for sharing that with me, and I really need to take that into meditation with me, And I need to discern if that's true for me or not. Give yourself time and space, right? You've got to learn to become your own inner authority. And this is not your inner authority at all, right? And you find the rebels in the world that dress differently, and they're not rebels. They're like in a group of rebels. They're conforming to another group, right? Not the mainstream group, but this group. And you see that. Like the truest rebels that I've met in my life so far, they look so conservative. You'd never think in a million years that they're a rebel. But you scratch the surface. Don't judge a book by its cover. And then the most radical looking people, right? You talk to them and they're like the most conservative people when you really get to know them, right? Because it's just a form. It's just a form, right? This is about getting to the essence, right? That 23 is about quintessence. It's about getting to the essence of the frequency of who's behind these forms, right? So you've got to watch this. Remember, we talked about power struggle last video. This is a rebelling. The ego is the ultimate rebel to God, to the divine. It doesn't want to see the divine as its authority. It wants to stay the rebel, right? And this is you staying in the ego, right? This is you staying in the ego. Okay. What else did I want to say about this? The rebel and the hunger and going on an adventure. And this is keeping you from the adventure, right? The rebel doesn't want to admit that it's vulnerable, right? That it's vulnerable, that it's scared. It's like bravado, right? It's not being authentic. Yeah, and it's keeping you from going on this great adventure of your life, right? Where the life is really calling you right now. We're finishing up. Don't you feel that? Like everybody that I've talked to, we're finishing up a cycle and we're heading into a new adventure this year. And this is keeping you to the old. It's like hanging on to the old, you know? And it's that whole thing of like fighting in relationships and arguing, and there's this propaganda. Well, that person loves me if they fight with me, right? If they argue with me and fight with me, and then this is how sick our society is, in the world. And then we subconsciously create conflict and fights. That person's proving that they love me. This is the Stockholm syndrome, right? We need to get out of this. This is such a waste of our energy, right? It's a waste of our energy. Okay, so let's see what the gift is. Oh, I know. I just picked 2 tarot cards just for fun to add to it. So this is the 8 of Wands and the 6 of Pentacles. So this is about communication, right? In terms of the rebel. So it's about communicating, but equally. This is the 6 of Wands. So this means equal listening and equal speaking, right? In terms of your relationships. But it's also listening. Like give your intuition time to speak. Because when we get bored in meditation, I'm bored. That's the mind, right? Starts right away. Especially if you're doing a meditation without a mantra or anything like that. You're just doing breath. The mind's going to kick in. It's like, I'm bored. This is boring. Is 11 minutes over yet? And you're looking at your watch and, that's the mind. Is you need to move past the boredom because something's trying to be communicated through, right? This 8 of Wands. This is your soul communicating to you, right? So just be with the boredom because something beautiful wants to come through, right? So the lower frequency rebel, right, is listening to the noisy mind and not their inner guidance. That's the true rebel. The true rebel is listening to their own inner voice, even if everybody around them is disagreeing with them. They're following their own inner voice, right? That's the true rebel. And you look at any religion back to its essence and purity, They were all rebels. Jesus was a rebel for sure, right? So equal communication, right? Equal listening and equal speaking. Okay, let's see what's underneath here. Are people having weird weather patterns where you are in your neck of the woods? I am. It's sunny one minute and it's raining and foggy, and it's getting rainy and foggy now. It's like this huge fog rolling through. Okay. Yeah, and it's in terms of our relationships, I mean, to listen is very healing for people. People think listening is waiting to talk. To just be more of a equal talker and listener. It's very healing for relationships. Okay, so what's the gift under this rebel? What's the gift for this underneath this rebel? This one wants to come through. Oh. I just want to... What goes with the mastery? I got this card so much. This is the tarot card, the Nine of Wands. It's like the wounded warrior, right? The battle-weary warrior. It's about standing your ground and not giving up. Determination, right? That's the gift of that, the 9, the inertia. So look at that. Mastery. It's mastery. So this is a big card here. From rebel to master. From rebel to master. This is a big one for the ego. I think that gets to the core issue of the ego, because the ego knows that it's not in charge. You know, it's like that, say a person, you know, this king and queen, right? King and queen go on vacation or whatever, and they leave their castle, right? Not the court's all gone and everything. And then the fool comes in, right? The fool comes in, he's sitting on the throne and he's pretending he's the king, you know? And the king's been gone for years and years and years, and people start to believe that that fool is the king, right? And then the king's coming back, right? This is what's happening. In the Aquarian age, the king and the queen are coming back. That's us. That's who we really are. The king and queen are coming in now. Right? And the fool has to go. The ego has to go. And this is what it's trying to hold on to, right? It's the rebelling, right? Because it knows. It knows it's not the king. It knows it's not in charge of you, right? So this big spiritual awakening is like this great soul is coming through, the dark night of the soul now, right? To take its place, its rightful place. In you, in your life, is your soul. So that's what this mastery is. It's self-mastery. This is the lower self, right? This is what we're here to master, is our lower self. We're here to master our ego. We're here to master our animal self, right? And what was I going to say about that? Yeah, it's just not letting your ego and your mind run riot in your life, you know? So just look at, in terms of the rebel, is to look at what you're rebelling against, you know? Probably truth. Some kind of truth is trying to come in and reach you, right? That you refuse to look at. And that's that. Whatever the ego is really rebelling against and reacting. Why did they say that? Why did they do? Why didn't they do this? Why did I lose my job? Right? It's their problem. It's the oligarchs out there in the world. They're the problem, right? It's the pointing the fingers, right? There's a great story before. This man, this is so perfect for the ego, this story. So this man he had pain all over his body, and he didn't know what's wrong. It's like, I have so much pain, right, in my body. So he went to see this doctor, and the doctor says, well, show me where you're in pain. And he points at his shoulder, and he goes, oh, my shoulder hurts. Oh, my face hurts. And then he points to his stomach. My stomach's in so much pain. And the doctor said, well, your finger's broken. Right? That's the problem. Your finger's broken. And that's the ego. Our only problem is the ego. It's not these things that the ego is pointing at. They're the problem. This is the problem. The lack, right? I'm lacking money. I'm lacking love. I'm lacking health. It's the ego is pointing outwards. And that's the problem is this, right? It's the finger pointing outwards. And that's the ego, right? So that's what the rebel does. It's like pointing you outward, getting you distracted, right? Getting you distracted, keeping you from the adventure. This is the boredom, keeping you from the adventure. That's calling you, right? And then there's mastery. So this is telling me, the Nine of Wands, is to persevere. I know I feel it, right? It's like, when's this going to move? When's this energy going to start to really move? But you got to be determined, right? You got to stand your ground. That's what the Nine of Wands is like. I'm standing for mastery, right? I'm not going to give up to this. I'm not going to give in to this. This is victim consciousness, right? I'm going to stand. I'm here to master. I'm here to be a master, right? I'm here to master myself. And I'm going to get up. I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to keep my vibration high. I'm not going to project on other people. I'm going to own my shadows. I'm going to do my emotional work. I'm not going to be blaming other people anymore. I'm going to take self-responsibility. I'm going to be a spiritual adult, right? I'm going to take emotional responsibility for myself, right? I'm not going to run away, right? The rebel just wants to run away from challenges and blame everybody else except herself, right? And blaming means taking self-responsibility, right? Especially if you find your life is just a train wreck. It's like my life is just falling apart. It's a train wreck. There's so many things that aren't right. I'm emotionally unfulfilled. I'm in despair. I'm depressed. You got to look in the mirror. You know, you got yourself there. Right? You got yourself there. You have to start taking self-responsibility. That's what self-mastery is. That's what being a spiritual adult is. And then you can, right? So you let the king and the queen come back in your castle, and they're going to like, holy, look at the mess in this castle that this fool has made, right? In my life. Like, look at it, right? You look around. And then you make corrections. You don't go into despair as the king or the queen. You make corrections. You get the fool out of there, right? Like you're not in charge. Like, get out of here, right? We're in charge now. I'm in charge as the king or the queen, right? For the Aquarian age. And then you start making corrections, right? And then the energy starts moving. The serotonin levels start going up. You start feeling good about your life. Right? And yourself, you start valuing yourself, right? So mastery is like, it's being the master, right? The master doesn't blame, right? Blame and go into victim. They're the master. That's you. So it's about claiming that. Okay. That's a good one. The rebel. Okay. I just want to look at a few comments before we go. I really liked what people said about that they don't mind the longer videos that I do. I wasn't sure, right? The views go down, but clearly I'm not doing it for the views, right? This is me, right? 9 of Wands. Going strong. Well, not strong, but just keep on going. So I like to hear that. Okay, so people are having weird weather patterns too. To me, the weather really reflects our consciousness, our state of consciousness. That's how I look at it. And I like to go with it. That's the 15. I don't think the 15's activated though, is it? Let's see. No, just the 5. So the programming partner of the 35 is the 5. And that's patience. So having patience with yourself and your process. And, and especially if you're the king, this is when we start waking up on the spiritual journey and you start looking around and you start looking at your behavior and the damage that you've maybe done to others, hurt and pain you've caused others, right? And how you've been living your life. That's not a time to be beating yourself up. It's just about okay, I know now, I can make corrections and I can start, and the energy will start to move. Okay. Chiron, when really hot and then cold, yeah. It's like the same here in Hawaii. It's true, you can be absolutely doing nothing yet be productive in other ways, and that's what we're learning, right? Is to go with the flow of the energy, like not fighting the river, going with the river, but not getting passive. Like the difference between like surrender and passivity are subtle. The passive is like, I'm just going to let the fates handle everything. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to be present in my life, right? I'm just going to let the fates take me. Well, the fates are going to take you to your karma, right? The fates you're going to miss out on the great adventure, right? Going with the flow is like, you're dancing, you're participating with the creation, right? You're dancing with it. It's like, okay, I'm in the flow now and I'm moving this way, right? I'm taking action. And then it's like I'm surrendering. And you're always in the state of surrender even because you're the observer, right? You're the observer watching yourself, but you're participating. That's what I'm trying to say is like, we're here to participate. We're here to have a human experience. And don't you want the greatest human experience ever? Maybe this is your last lifetime ever. Don't you want to end with a bang? That's how I look at it. Olga, yes, it's the ego, but how do we stop it? Well, becoming aware of it, right? That's the first step. And that's bringing the light of awareness of who you are. And even the fact that you recognize the ego, like this is my ego, that in itself is telling you that you've already made that first step because you've identified it. People get lost. They think that they are their ego. They think that they are those thoughts in their mind, right? So just to recognize it, that's the ego. And don't even own it. Say, that's the ego, right? What are you doing when you're identifying that's the ego? Which means I'm the light of awareness that's watching that ego. I'm the eternal soul that's watching that ego at play, right? So it's like putting the lights on it. And it's all an illusion anyway, the ego, but that's another video, right? That's down the road. But first you have to identify it, right? Just with the light of awareness and call it the ego. Right? My mind is doing, the mind is, right, generating these kinds of thoughts. The age of Aquarius is about detachment. It's about detaching from your mind and your ego. And then you can deal with it. And then it's like, I'm the great soul, right? I'm much bigger than this ego and this mind. I'm much bigger than my problems, that my ego is saying I got all these problems. There's no problems with you need the ego and the mind to have a problem. You need the victim consciousness to have a problem. No victim, no problem, right? And then there's a great meditation you can do too. I just started doing this a couple days ago. It's another go-to meditation of mine. I'm gonna try to record it at some point. But you put all your fingers together like a teepee and your thumb too. And you put that in front of your heart chakra and then point it at a 45-degree angle. So this is 90, so 45 like that. And then your eyes are closed and you're going to breathe through your nostrils. And as you breathe through your nostrils, you're imagining divine energy coming through the crown. So it's like your eyes are back and turned upward, okay? And then as you're inhaling through the nostrils, you're imagining this divine energy, cosmic energy coming through the crown. And then you exhale with a tightened throat. So it sounds like, right? So what happens there, because that's the death rattle. That's how we breathe when we're dying. And the ego is like, oh, he's dying or she's dying, right? We want nothing to do because there's no source. You're not a food source anymore, right? Because you're dying. You're not a food source. So, well, it dilutes. It kind of goes away. And that gives you more of that spaciousness and you get to experience who you really are. So you do that for 11 minutes. And yeah, do that. It's a very powerful meditation. It's like tricking the ego, right? That you're dying. Okay. Yes, and the breath. Thank you, Olga. Breath. Breath, right? The mind must obey the breath. Yes, meditation's changed my life too. I can't imagine not. I've been meditating every single day now for over 18 years. I haven't missed a day. I can't, and it becomes a habit. This isn't about me being arrogant. It just becomes a habit. You show up, that nine of wands, right? You just show up and you keep at it. Tammy from Miami. Your shadow work program is life-changing. I'm loving these frequent live streams. Please keep them coming. Thank you. So much inspiration. You're the best teacher. That's great. Well, I'm just obeying my intuition and not rebelling and not trying to get too into structure and control. Yeah, but there seems to be a flow happening, and I do enjoy them. Okay, everybody. So have a great day and evening wherever you are in the world, and meditate. That would be my message: is meditate and really go where your emotions and your intuition and your heart is calling you, right? And just like I'm opening myself up, making myself available for this great adventure into the Aquarian age. Okay, and please leave your comments below. Okay, Satnam Aloha.